That's okay.
Hey.
Yeah. Nah,
Hey,
fired
Glue
up.
Nation.
Fired up. Who cares?
Hey, Glue Nation.
I don't, we're not going to do the whole fired up. Let's just get in the show. We already know what happens. Then that's lost game two. Who cares? Move it on.
Welcome back to the Glue Guys. This is Mike here. Say hello, Brian.
Hello.
Oh, okay. I'm fired up now.
Yeah, come on.
Check us out on.
I'm not doing the minor key podcast. It sucks. This sucked, and it was shit. But I'm not gonna do the whole thing of like.
Hey, Brian shows up, unlike Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
That's right.
Hi-yo! Burn! There you got burned.
Yeah, I don't want
Welcome
you to
back
suck
to the Glue
on
Guys
that,
at BK Glue Guys on Twitter, Netsdaily.com, The Athletic. Get yourself behind the paywall at theathletic.com/Glue Guys. Des Lombardo wants to get on the pod so he can dry heave.
Yeah. So it is the night of. We were fresh, maybe 30 seconds after the closing bell on game 2 here. I bet this podcast gets 5 listens, to be honest with you, so we could probably just go completely off. Nobody wants to listen to this right now. So I'm just ready to tee off. This is we started at the beginning of the season, Mike, talking about how if we didn't win a championship this season, not only didn't make it out of the first effing round of the playoffs, but if we didn't get to a championship season, this was a bad look for us. And I just want to make sure that we have the entire scope of what's happened here under, not to say that we're not going to come out and maybe win 2 games in Barclays and make a series out of this, but based on what we've seen here, it is really hard to have faith in this team right now. It is really hard. I mean, they have an actual plan. We got to give them credit. Honestly, the plan was drag this game into the gutter with just being incredibly physical with Kevin Durant. They correctly analyzed our only strength, truly the only strength we have on this team, which is Kevin Durant, and they nullified it by just bringing him down to their level. And it's a good idea. It's what you should do. It's what most people should do. And I can't blame them for that. I blame this team. I blame Kyrie Irving for giving us no other options. I blame Steve Nash for creating 0 offensive schemes outside of, give Kevin Durant the ball and hopefully good things will happen. I blame Andre Drummond for suddenly forgetting how to catch the goddamn ball. I have a lot of blames to go around right now. Failure is it's an orphan here, and I just anyways.
And we're an orphanage.
Yeah, we're an orphanage. I just feel like I want to go back to what I was previously saying. We started out this season being like, hey Kyrie, if you F this, do whatever you got to do. Actually, if you F the season up, how can we ever forgive you? And I feel, Harden's gone off to play very poorly, and we maybe saved ourselves from that. But we are not a coherent team right now. We don't make sense. Nothing is working outside of Kevin Durant up until the very end of the season. And now he's not working because we're up against a team who actually knows how to plan to play another freaking team, who actually adopts their strategy based on the personnel they're playing, Michael. So it's a problem for us. It's a big problem, and I want to be done. I want to be done with these people. Sorry, this is an emotion. This is a feels-based feels rant, but
in the 9 years we've been doing this, I've never seen you like this, and it's so exciting for me.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating to have gone the distance with this team in particular and done the whole we're gonna, don't worry. It's like the regular season's all BS. We can just slap it together by playoff time. Guess what, guys? You can't. You cannot do that. That's not how things in life ever work. You can't just everything else for 95% of this, just we don't have to pay any attention to a detail of any kind.
Tip it up. We're gonna ball out, right? Yeah. That's tip it up is what Kevin Durant said.
Yeah,
let's just tip it up,
and it's dumb. Sorry, go ahead.
And it's dumb. I mean, I don't want to get too long term here, but I said this before. June 30th, 2019. Woj tweets out, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, DeAndre Jordan are going to come to Brooklyn, clean sweep. And we knew that we wouldn't have Kevin Durant that first year. And, of course, that was the COVID year and all that stuff. This is the dynasty that was promised. I mean, this is a huge deal that they blew this game. Game 1 was a game where they didn't really play all that well. And yet they should have won the game, but they didn't, right? So karma would say, or sort of the momentum of the game, the team that was making the better plays in that game were the Boston Celtics, and they won game 1. Game 2, I have a hilarious string of notes. I actually sat down on my couch, busted out the Google Docs app, and I was taking notes, and they were segmented quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And I was like, oh my God, they're doing the right things. They're going in and trying to get every rebound. There's 3 guys for the Nets in the paint where there's 1 for the Celtics. They're doing everything correct. Bruce Brown is a monster Bruce Brown seems to be the only guy on this team right now with cojones, Brian. And it is so exciting to begin. And then it's just a horror show. These notes, the string of notes going in third quarter and then fourth quarter is just it has to be one of the most depressing, disgusting quarters of basketball in Nets history because this team should be better. And there's so many reasons why it's not better. Steve Nash is a bad coach. Bad coach. There's no continuity because of Kevin Durant's knee, Kyrie Irving's anti-vax stance, James Harden's his waffling that led to Ben Simmons's back, Joe Harris's ankle. There are excuses, but in the end, this is the team that we are witnessing in the playoffs. The Nets Celtics series was by Vegas's standards supposed to be the closest of the first round. And game 1, the Nets should have won. They didn't. They should have won game 2 even more so, even though the end result is further away from game 1. Game 2, they had full control. Stan Van Gundy was saying on the broadcast that, the Nets, even though they're only up by 12, it feels like they should be up by 20 because of how dominant they are. And it felt that way in the first half. It felt really good. Even though that Kevin Durant and Kyrie weren't really doing much, the team overall, you got 16 points from Seth Curry. You got 23 from Bruce Brown. You got 18 from Goran. But yet, Kevin Durant, if you take away his free throws, and a lot of those free throws happened when he wasn't even attacking the basket, like he got a lot of free ticky-tack fouls. He was 18 for 20 from the free throw line, even though he missed 2 in a row at one point. So we got 27, 5, and 4. But it was the weakest 27, 5, and 4 in NBA playoff history. And rarely, Brian, how many times on this show have we ever truly criticized Kevin Durant?
Never. I mean, honestly, truly never. We're just thankful. And I'm torn between giving the Celtics too much credit on this and just saying Kevin Durant has just pieced together 2 of the worst games I've ever seen him play. It's not just that he's getting physically manhandled, and that's part of their plan, and that's somewhat working to a lesser effect this game, I would say, than the first game, just because the refs did call some of those ticky-tacky fouls, as you mentioned. But he continues to just fart the ball out of bounds, almost half of the time. What has happened here is I've never seen anything like this, where just the best player starts to it's so Netsian. This only ever happens to the Nets, Mike. I swear to God. How does this only ever happen? Where when it matters, our best player just starts to dribble off his foot all the time? What is happening?
And he gets a mid-range jumper blocked, which has never happened in Kevin Durant's career. And even at times when he got open looks, so you talk about who do you give credit to? The Celtics, or is it the Nets just fucking up, right? It's obviously a lot of both. I mean, but at times Kevin Durant was guarded by Al Horford and Grant Williams. And Kevin Durant, who is a top 12 player in NBA history,
12, huh?
If he's healthy, and I don't know if he is, because that's almost the only explanation that he's not fully healthy, that there's some sort of nagging knee injury or leg injury that is diminishing his burst, diminishing his lift, and messing with his mind in some way. He could not blow by Grant Williams and Al Horford. 2 guys that, when Durant gets switched onto them, when Durant is the ball handler, he should dominate. That's a win for the Nets, and he was 4 for 17 from the field, and he couldn't handle the basketball.
And I don't want to get into is it, as to your point, this is speculation, whatever, is it injury? Another version of that speculation, which everyone hates, and I don't want to get into, is like load management. He's 33 years old now, and he's played like 45 minutes a game for the last 2 months to get into the playoffs. Like
That's 100% true.
like,
Yeah.
and meanwhile, and I don't want to I really don't want to lose sight of the fact that Kyrie, had he played more, this would not have been such a race to finish this season. We wouldn't have had to be in this position. We would have won more regular season games and not have to blow our tires off trying to get into the play-in game, for God's sakes. Like, please, let's just not lose sight of the fact that we are in this position because of this dude. I don't, all the hemming and hawing about this, I don't understand. It's fine. I'm not like, vax, whatever. I don't care. He should have been playing basketball. I just don't care anymore about any of the other things. We shouldn't be in this position.
And so you and I we try to be very rational in this. Like, very rarely when we do a post-game show, are we like, capture the moment, capture the emotion of the moment. So if we want to take a step back, it's 2-0. The Celtics have won both games at home. It's gone according to plan in terms of what the series is probably going to turn out to be anyways. But that doesn't speak to what we just witnessed.
Yes.
Game 1, the Nets should have won, and they blew it at the end because of lack of execution. And Udoka completely put Steve Nash in a blender, in a coaching Vitamix. And in Game 2, the Nets had a sizable lead. They were playing better basketball. And when things got tight, they regressed. They regressed to hey, let's give Kevin Durant the ball 28 feet from the basket, where a guy's completely draped on his back and the entire defense knows what he's going to do next. Yeah. Let's not do anything that we did at the beginning of the game, which was let's kind of feature our role players a little bit more, create a little bit of movement off the ball. Durant at the beginning of the game, though not that he was successful, was getting the ball closer to the bucket, and I thought that was a key. I wrote that down. Such an exciting note. In a game we were going to celebrate.
Put a heart next to it and a star?
It was going to be it was so exciting. I was going to print it out and show my wife when she woke up in the morning and said, look at all the work I did for this show. And yet, so how great, wow. And Steve Nash, what a genius. And then it regresses and regresses, and that's a symptom of what you go back to. This team has been a complete shit show all year, from injuries, unvaccinated stance, trades. We got a piece of news before the game, and we'll talk about it, I guess, at some point. But like, Ben Simmons may return in Game 4. I think Woj reported that, and it's been reported millions of times. My eyes are rolling
into the back of my head listening to that. I just don't
and it's like,
I don't know what to do with it, and I don't want to even care. Like, I just
and it
doesn't solve the problem. The optics are what the optics are. Yeah.
It does a disservice to analysis if we try to map this 3D chess this shit. Right? No, we're in it right now. This team should have won this game. They should have won Game 1, even though they weren't playing that well, but they had the lead at a certain point. They should have won that game. They should have won this game like kind of comfortably if they had competency from a ball handling perspective, if they knew what they wanted to do on offense. But in that second half, there was zero plan. Kevin Durant was 4 for 17 from the field. Yes, he was 18 for 20 from free throw line. That's obviously the greatest free throw performance for him. I don't think he's made as many free throws as that. Kyrie Irving was 4 for 13, 1 assist. And so there's something that, I don't know how you feel like I was going to play a game like Who to Blame, right? And
it's a classic Smelts family.
Holiday special. That goes way back to the Egyptians. It's Passover time, and the Smeltzes were, we were constantly, why are we in the desert? 40 years. Who's to blame for that? But it for some reason, like the glaring spot, like of Kevin Durant fumbling the ball off of his foot, getting his shot blocked from mid range, all of that is so glaring. But yet Kyrie also was bad. He scored 10 points. Of all the starters, only Andre Drummond scored fewer points than him. And Goran was a much more effective player.
He was bad in a more conspicuous way. Bad in a, like, and I hate to do this because, like, the cut over to him eating a banana on the sidelines, I'm just like, I get it. The guy's got to do whatever he's got to do, but like it's just one thing after another. Like he's got potassium surging through his veins. He's gonna cramp up, and it's he didn't like he was not there for the second half of this game. Here's what we usually don't do on this, but we're gonna go behind the break the fourth wall. I sent you a text being like, I don't want a podcast right now. and I do that because we never really pod after the show because it takes
After the game,
after the game, sorry, to like a moment to digest your feelings, to not come shot out of a cannon in the way that we are now. And now that I'm here and I'm going off, like it feels cathartic, and I wonder if I'll agree with a lot of what I've said here tomorrow. And like, it's very possible that we, win game of 3 and 4, and this is all fine because like ultimately what we've seen here is like things that are obviously working, and then we stop going to them, and we allow like our these goblins in our mind to just take over, and we start doing all of the most stupid, like straightforward myopic things you can do on a basketball court. We just go to like really obvious offensive. It's basically, I said this on this Elden Ring analogy. It's coming true. So the analogy that I had for the athletic show is that we're like an Elden Ring boss, where it can either one shot kill you with a Kevin Durant club, or you can like dodge roll behind its butt and then just like stab it in the ankle till it dies while it's like glitching into a wall or something. We are glitching into a wall in the second half of these games right now. We're just stuck on this spamming this really bad offense, especially when Kevin Durant is like specifically not playing well. We're just like, just go to him. We'll just go to him. That'll be fine, and it'll work. It's like that's truly the only thought in our brain right now, and everybody in the entire arena, everyone watching on TV is seeing. Like, it's like, okay, that's what they're going to. So we'll just get more handsy with Kevin Durant, make it more difficult, and it's just you're fighting a really dumb boss right now, and that's what we are. We just look dumb, and it's annoying. It's frustrating.
It is 100%. I mean, as great as Kevin Durant is, ultimately in the playoffs, if the only option is like as a defense, here's what then you have to protect against. Kevin Durant taking the ball, and we're going to put 18 guys on him. Kyrie Irving, who, yeah, he was doubled at times in this game, but like there was room for Kyrie to operate at some of the time. And then it's like Bruce Brown, hitting a floater, I guess. Besides that, Drummond has zero role in the offense. I'm trying to even look like who like Seth Curry. He actually had a good night, but he's diminished because of his ankle. What's so weird about this game is that, I mean, if you look at what the Celtics did tonight, Grant Williams was a monster.
Yeah,
with 17 points, did not miss a shot, did not miss a free throw. He continually pushed Nick Claxton around, which is embarrassing for Nick Claxton. Peyton Pritchard, a guy who yes, he can be good, and I'm not just discounting him because, he looks like a guy who's more likely to show up in a Boston Dunkin' Donuts than in the TD Bank Garden or whatever it's called at this point. But he was 5 for 7 from the field and was electric and kind of ignited the crowd in the way that he did. Daniel Tice was great. Al Horford was left completely wide open from 3 and hit half of his threes tonight. But it was a game that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I don't think either of them were all that impressive. Tatum had the 10 assists.
I mean, Jaylen Brown, like, I don't know what.
Jaylen Brown, I am not terrified at all.
No, Jaylen Brown, like tonight especially, I was like, I am so. This is the same take from the last episode. It's like, thank God that the ball's in your hands right now, because that's like, I have no faith that he's going to do anything scary or good with it. Like, it's a good thing for us.
It's just.
Anyways. What else is
this goddamn game, man?
All right, now we got it off our chest.
It's unacceptable, man. It's goddamn unacceptable, and it's embarrassing it's got to be embarrassing for Kevin Durant. It has to be embarrassing for Kyrie Irving. It has to be embarrassing for everyone on this team. Seth Curry has had some amount of success in the NBA. Drummond, while maybe not highly thought of within league circles, has been a big money guy and, has played on some playoff teams, I think. And Goran, has he won a championship? It doesn't matter. Him and Patty have both been like veteran playoff dudes who've done really well. And Goran's been pretty vocal about, he was vocal after game 1 about how, like Kevin and Kyrie played well, but like the rest of the team has to really step up. He stepped up. Bruce Brown, falling madly in love with, because he seems to be him and Goran are the only guys on this team who like seem to enjoy playing right now. Kevin Durant was such.
They're the only guys that can actually make a play. Like, can you remember one single time where, I don't know what, was it one assist that Kyrie had, and how many assists did Kevin Durant have? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Kevin had 5,
He had
but
5
it didn't
like,
feel like an impactful 5.
Right. And meanwhile, I can think of like at least, a handful of plays that, that either of Dragic or Bruce Brown just initiated a drive, and it resulted in a very simple either dump down pass or kick out. Like I have them in my brain. I just remember them, and I'm like, I don't have any memory of anything like that from Kyrie Irving. And it just, we are stuck in tunnel vision, so concerned with getting either of those two guys going. That's like our big, we need, just if the engine of our offense is going to like ever turn on, if ever going to kick on, it's got to get one of those two guys started. And it's like, if it doesn't happen, we just like pewter out, and our jalopy it's just on the side of the highway, and and there's nothing to be done. And that cannot be the case. You literally cannot have there be like two versions of the same solution to your problem, which is just have one of those two guys go off. It's just so lazy. It's offensive because it's intellectually lazy, Mike. That's the ultimate problem. We just have it's just, again, I just say it's like, it's just not, there's not a whole lot of interesting things happening on the court, and that's the biggest crime here, Mike.
It all links back to what we talked about before, the tip it up mentality. Just tip it up. Kyrie Irving said it before they hired Steve Nash. We don't really need a coach. We don't really need a coach. And by the way, I'm going to get to Steve Nash after the break because we got to break in a little bit. But I'm not sure what Steve Nash does that impacts. I know he doesn't do anything that impacts the actual game positively. There's not a single thing that like, that was a Steve Nash moment right there. Like he may be a super nice guy, and I do believe he's probably about the only coach who could have deftly handled the Kyrie unvaccinated, the anti-vax stance, while handling James Harden, and then being like, okay, James Harden has to go. Now we have this weird Ben Simmons back issue, and we're integrating Seth Curry and Drummond, like personalities-wise. He is a great substitute teacher. Just, he'll roll out that TV and putting on Finding Nemo, and all the kids are happy, right? But he is not a guy, he's not an AP professor who is going to really elevate the students and take them out and say, I don't know, what's a movie where like there's a teacher that changes people's lives? What's the one with Ethan Hawke and Josh Charles when they're young?
The Dead Poet Society.
Yeah.
There's also Stand and Deliver. Lean on Me.
There's so many classics.
Yeah.
So many classics. There's the one with Michelle Pfeiffer, right, where she's
Dangerous Minds. Dangerous Minds. Yeah.
Which
How do I have all
never
these?
seen.
These.
Yeah,
are just,
you got this at the tip of your tongue.
I'm big on that archetype. It's big for me. The teacher who overcomes.
And then what would be a teacher who just didn't really rise to the challenge in a movie? There's probably many of them. Maybe Billy Madison's teachers.
What's the one with Rodney Dangerfield about diving or something? Yeah.
Yeah, where he's on the diving team. That was on Comedy Central a ton.
Yeah. So much growing up.
It was like Class Act or something like
something like that.
Movies back then were real movies. It was take a disgusting old man and make him go to college, and that was like 12 movies back then. Let's quick break.
Yeah.
Coming back, we actually have some email, so we should hit those emails. Someone sent in a voice email, and I will try to listen before it gets on the air. And then coming back, there's just a lot to talk about.
Just throw it on there. Let's see if we have to edit it out. We'll edit it out.
Okay. Yeah. And we're back, Brian. Wow. One thing before we get to email. Before the game started, our Twitter was getting a lot of activity. And I like that. It gets me excited when I see our Twitter notifications.
Because you love clout.
I love clout.
Yeah.
And there was something that happened in the arena that seemed to ignite our fan base and really kind of connected from something that we've talked about on the show before. There was a person in the building, okay? The Nets savior, the guy who is going to save the Nets, was inside the building tonight. It wasn't Kevin Durant, it wasn't Kyrie Irving, and it wasn't Ben Simmons. It was Coach Mike Krzyzewski.
Right.
Coach Mike Krzyzewski,
yeah,
who I said on this very show if I'm going to do dark horse candidate for who's going to be the Nets' next head coach.
Oh, you're double downing? You want to double down on this right now? You're feeling pretty
Here's
good.
the thing.
Yeah.
He was there courtside.
You want to make sure.
Obviously, there's a lot of Dukies.
You want to make
there
sure if this happens, the take is yours. That's what you want to. Yeah.
People have spoken loudly. Alex Sturm, the preeminent reporting voice in Nets Twitter culture, has given me the copyright to the Coach K to the Nets thing. He was there sitting courtside with John Shire and Emile Jefferson, I think, a bunch of the other Duke coaches. He was there analyzing the game,
you're elbowing people out of this take like Grant
with
Williams
his
right
vulture-like eyes. Doesn't he look like a vulture, like the vulture from Sesame Street or Muppets? There's like a Muppets character.
I don't know that, but sure, I go.
Yeah, go with it.
Yeah.
The savior for the Nets is in the building because here's why. Kevin Durant, of course. Kyrie Irving played for him at Duke. They both played. Kevin Durant and Kyrie played for him on Team USA. And Steve Nash, if the Nets lose this series, okay, let's play this out. Let's say they split at home and then they lose in Boston in Game 5. So it's a 3-1 or 4-1 waxing. Mm-hmm. Steve Nash has to go. Because ultimately he's been given 2 years, right? Is this year 2? I can't even fathom that it's only been 2 years. And while he may be a sweet man, just a gentleman, a guy who's on his daughter's TikToks, and God bless him for it, I support dads who are willing to demean themselves for their children. I do it every day. He has yet to prove that he can do anything strategically that enhances the roster. He does deserve credit for Bruce Brown, the Brownos ounce, even though he didn't want to play him earlier this year. I think we need to remember that. But he deserves credit for taking a guy like Bruce Brown and saying, this is the role that you can thrive in, right? So he gets that. But everything else on this team has been muted and been neutered and has not been enhanced by Stephen James Nash. And I don't even know if this is his middle name, but I don't have to worry about it because if he loses in 5 games to the Celtics, he's gone. And our boy, Coach K.
You're triple downing. Here comes.
Because I've talked about this before. There's only a select group of guys who could coach this, or women too, who could coach this team. It has to be someone with like real clout and expertise. Pop is still in San Antonio. Pat Riley's in Miami. It's like Coach K and Phil Jackson. It ain't Frank Vogel.
Sure,
like, I guess he's a championship coach. They should have hired Ty Lue when they had the chance, though Ty Lue was obviously not even in the playoffs. So I'm just like, the Nets could turn it around and we could talk about it. Like, what's the chances? This is the Vibes episode. We're 10:20 on 420 right now.
Shout out to the 420,
hey,
420 guys. Is there a drop going? Oh, I thought you were about to hit a drop.
Oh, I don't have. Do you think I have a 420 drop?
I don't know. I thought maybe you had like a.
It's a golf swing.
Perfect. No, that was good.
My friend Steve's at Fish. They're playing at MSG, so wow. I'm sure he's content. Name? Steve.
Shout out to Steve. Wow.
Steve Perot. Steve. Big fan. Not
take
actually a fan
easy,
of the show,
Steve.
just fan
Hang
of my
in
wife.
there, buddy. Don't go crazy.
Okay. Should we get to some email?
Sure.
Or do you have something else to say before we?
No, I feel bad like throwing Steve Nash under the bus, but he does.
Why?
He should be.
He's a bad coach.
I wish It's funny because in the NBA, typically like the assistant coach actually does a whole lot, and there should be like a vice president role. You know how in like leadership, there's this sort of like figurehead, the guy who's got to make the hard decisions, and then there's the vice president who just kind of represents. It's like the chief and the holy man. He just represents the spirit, the vibe of the team. He just give him like a vice president, holy man role on the team. Have him just be like the vibes guy, because we do. This team needs a vibes guy. But we also need a coach a lot. So that's in conflict right now. His role as a vibe, he could just get a demotion. They should. I don't know what to call this position. Just call it holy man. I mean, Kyrie would dig that.
Kyrie would absolutely be thrilled by a holy man on the roster. And Kyrie, again, he stated previously, the team doesn't really need a coach. Coaching's important. And there's a lack of coaching. There's, of course, this team's hard to coach. We all understand that. We're saying all this stuff about Steve Nash. Yes, he's had a very hard coaching job. He also has Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So it's kind of, it's not. I guess it's like a double-edged sword. I don't really know the correct reference, but
let's throw that
let's
voicemail.
get to email.
I'm dying to hear this crazy voicemail. Who knows what
Okay,
we're
this
about
is
to hear.
from this is. Let me. I'll read the email before we get to the voicemail. I'm very scared. This is what he says. Hi guys, this is Jose. Sorry if the audio quality is bad. Quick emotional take.
Loved it already.
Yeah, this is like my worst
checking
nightmare.
a lot of boxes for
the
me.
pod. So yeah,
Let me. I'm going to jack up the volume
jack up
on
that-
your end because this is like. And I appreciate, like, by the way, if people want to get involved, like, we take voicemails. We don't really play them because not many come in. But
Well, we don't
that's
really
part of
ask for
Gmail.
them.
You could just send in quick little voice memos it up and send it in.
hi guys, love the pod. So yeah, I'll just get right to it. I could probably point like all the issues we're having, just trace it back to just Sean Marks hiring Steve Nash in the first place as head coach. The guy just simply can't coach. Like his game plan just is basically just rely on KD or Kyrie to carry us to wins. That will work sometimes in the regular season, but now when we're in the playoffs, intensity's like intensity goes way up, and then we're facing better competition here, like we're facing with the Celtics. Like it just it's not gonna work. It's not something you could consistently rely on. And we're not running a system. We're just running ISO ball, and the Celtics are playing really good defense on KD, and they're kind of like Ime Udoka. I probably butchered his name, but the former assistant coach we had last year, that's now the Celtics head coach. He's kind of coaching circles around Nash, and he had a first round seed to how the Bucks attacked us last year. So I'm not surprised by this one bit, especially with like Nash's inability to coach and adapt and basically make any like adjustments. I have like no faith. Like I have no faith in Steve Nash, but the only hope I'm clinging to is that KD and Kyrie will really show up and kind of like carry us to some wins. That's the only hope we can have at the moment. But considering how they look tonight, not sure how much faith we could put there. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Can I say I feel lied to, Mike, by the body of that email, because that was great audio quality and a very measured and dispassionate response. Yeah. That was not, I wouldn't consider that bad quality or emotional. So wow, thank you for that. Was it Jose?
Jose, and that was awesome. Yeah, it was actually really well delivered. Better delivered.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like I've been motor mugging this whole episode and just stammering on, and he's just, Jose, what are you doing? Do you want to come on? Take your seat.
I did. So I had tweeted out like right after the game, we're playing Who's to Blame, blah, blah, blah. It's usual suspects, but it is a lot of Steve Nash. 57 people have actually commented, and Nash is the prevalent voice so far. And there's a lot to blame. There's plenty of blame to go around, Brian, but people are furious with Steve Nash. Should we get to other emails real quick?
Sure. I have to load them up, so just give me 2 seconds, and I'm going to do a quick little thing here. Okay. My thing's not loading. Hi. Hello, email. You might need to read
First up.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Here we go. I've loaded up now. First up, cheer boy, Brandon San Giovanni. Sorry, I think I actually... Brandon, no, he says he signs off Brandon. Okay, hey, Brandon. Hey there, blue guys. Your boy, Brandalorian here. Just wanted to chime in. My rankings. 1. This is probably about blame.
This is the
rankings.
blame
Yeah.
rankings for game 2.
So number 1 is Nash. I had piling on the guy, but I hate I think he's what he's trying to say is I hate piling on the guy, but the issues in the third and fourth quarters, getting stops aren't new. It speaks volumes that we ended the third quarter with the lead, however much it shrank, and I momentarily thought to myself, wow, improvement. We also didn't seem to have any plays designed to get KD and Kyrie going in the fourth, so we had forced step backs from Kyrie and the occasional mid-range brick from over a defender from KD. On top of it all, I still don't think he has a good enough sense for when to use timeouts. True on all accounts.
Yeah, so and then he ranks 2 KD, 3 Kyrie, and then he has some smaller thoughts, which we all appreciate. And Brandon, absolute thank you for all your
Do you feel
support.
like we, in coming out so emotionally, like that a lot of people
We've
come
put
to
ourselves
us.
in a corner.
So a lot of people come to us for measured takes, but maybe it's time to not have a measured take on this. There is a little bit of like, to Jose's message, he's lacking faith, and I think that's what you're hearing from us now is a loss of faith, Mike. Maybe.
I'm reminded of like the Joe Biden impersonations now. Like, come on, guys. Hey, let's get it together. We all know this. It's simple, right? And like, yeah. So if we had potted tomorrow, and we had perspective, we would say, man, that's playoffs. It's just playoffs, brah. That's what happens. You lose games on the road. You win games at home. The role players are going to be playing better for the Brooklyn Nets at home, and the Celtics role players are going to play a little bit worse. Actually, the thing is, though, the Celtics are a really good road team. They have a fantastic road record. Things are different in the playoffs, but they're a very good road team. I don't want to lose the energy of what we just saw, right? And, we can get real analytical about it and be like, oh, if these few things happened differently, the Nets could have won the game, like just a few plays. But what we saw was a massive issue with this team. They get disorganized. They don't have a flow. If they are unable to sort of, I don't know, pop free for like a Kevin Durant, Kyrie shot, they're just lost. They're lost. Like at the second half just became, hey, as you've said many times, Kevin and Kyrie, just here's the ball with the defender draped all over you. Can you do anything with it? Mm-hmm. Right? As opposed to what it was like earlier in the game, much more movement, much more action, and actually Bruce Brown and like Drummond was making a few plays on his passing. It was just it was a if you're a Celtics fan, you're feeling pretty good because you're thinking the things that the Nets have to fix aren't fixable in a 7-game series. Where if some guy has a bad shooting night or something like the normal things that happen negatively to a team during a 7-game series, that's not the Nets issue. The Nets issue is systematic at this point. It's because of bad coaching and a lack of continuity and all the pieces that are being jammed in together in a really disgusting fashion. And so we're left here. Yeah, they're down 2 games. They're going to Brooklyn. But anyways,
this isn't who's up next because it's amazing. So your boy Gregory Johnston has almost the exact same email as Brandon Sangiovanni. It's like it is eerily similar, but basically he has the exact same top 3, blame concerns. It's interesting. I mean, this is true of Jose as well. Like we're all the problem with doing an analysis of the Nets playoff run right now is that everyone's on the same page. All of the problems are so glaringly obvious. It's just not even like, it's not even that fun to dissect. Dissect
No.
it. Like everyone can see what's happening here. It's plain as day.
Well, and the thing is, this is a new, fresh pain for us.
Yeah.
Because of anything over these, ever since June 30th, 2019, whenever Kevin Durant has been healthy, he is so reliable. He is electric. He has been the best player in the NBA when he's healthy. The most dynamic scorer. Again, I said top 12 player. I don't have my list in front of me. I'm just being safe by saying he's top 12. What we've seen over 2 games is that he isn't that guy. He's 100% ain't that bitch.
Whoa.
From Lizzo. That's a Lizzo.
Whoa.
She hosted SNL. That's a Lizzo reference. I brought it up before.
No, I'm not saying the language in it is the problem. I'm just saying the conclusion was, wow.
He's off. He's never. So there was a stat that was, I think it was true, that was tweeted out pregame. They asked Udoka about it. Kevin Durant, after losses in the playoffs, averages like 43 points per game. His next game after a loss in the playoffs. He did score 27, which is a fine number. But the way he got that 27 was not the way that Kevin Durant typically scores baskets. And it was a fumbling, bumbling mess.
I bring
Bring back Andre
I
Blatch.
still think he's that bitch. It's just it's a bad 2 games.
I don't think he's 100% that bitch. I think he's 75 that bitch. Apologies.
Next up,
Sure, boy.
sure, buddy. That's Luis Torres. Imagine if the Nets win 4 of the next 5 first Ben Simmons games. I got high for this email, not for the holiday. Yeah, everyone's sort of in a I'll go back to saying, like, I don't expect many people to listen to this podcast. It just feels like not a good time to be consuming Nets content and taking this team seriously. So I vibe with the ethos in this message. But hey, Mike, does that mean we want to talk at all? Is that a lead into talking about the one
Angie
lone
Simmons?
X factor that still remains, the
prince who was promised,
the North Star of Ben
the backless horseman? Yeah, so there was a moment in the game when Bruce Brown was sitting next to Ben Simmons, and Bruce Brown patted Ben quite aggressively on the back, and everything looked okay. And I was like, there, he's healthy. He's ready.
Yeah, just the pat on the back. You're so keyed into it's really impressive.
Yeah, because that is a true indication of how people. Because I feel like we're being lied to all the time about injuries and.
But your sense of your hypervigilance to other people, like pictures of them, how they're sitting in chairs or walking in the snow and stuff. It's very impressive. I think I just want to give you a moment. Yeah,
thank you. I appreciate it. Here's what Steve Nash said. So Woj reported that Ben Simmons is targeting Game 4 for a return. Here's what Steve Nash said pregame. That's news to me. I don't think we're targeting any game. We haven't penciled in anything or made any conclusions yet. I think he's got a long way to go. And I get it, man. I get it that you're playing like a Bill Belichick clone, that even though we know that Woj is talking to Sean Marks and that Shams is talking to Rich Paul, and they are both aligned in saying that Game 4 is probably when Ben Simmons is going to return. And Steve Nash, you can't publicly say it is a competitive disadvantage to reveal the timeline. It's also ridiculous and silly. And just, I understand he's probably being coached that way by Nets PR, which, I don't want to go to a Nets PR rant. I don't have to, they've never done anything for this podcast, obviously. So, no friends over there. But it's like, I don't know. Brian, let me ask you. Ben Simmons returns Game 4 and the Nets are down 3-0. Are you getting excited? What meme are you sending out? Are you excited for that meme? Are you excited for that
here's the meme.
possibility?
The Wojak in behind me right now with smiling face with crying, or smiling mask with crying face underneath. That's just my feeling in general right now. What is the? Too little, too late is the meme with Ben Simmons returning for Game 4. Again, I don't want to bury us because we could come out and wins Game 3 and 4, but here's the real takeaway for me from this whole thing. It's that we have a very, very small chance to get out of this Celtics series. I think just based unless the optics completely change in Game 3 and somehow everything that we're talking about gets rectified, which I think is very unlikely, but let's say it does. I still think we hit a buzzsaw in round 2 and still lose to the Bucks. So I'm I have less faith than ever in the championship run ceiling of this team, and I guess that's what I'm mourning right now more than anything. Just I was hoping that maybe there was something left in us to change the narrative going into the playoffs, and we are exactly the same team we were going into it. There's no and why would we be? Why would we delude ourselves into thinking that we could just tip it up and be whoever we want to be, new school, new me, and then you're just
tip it up, baby.
It's not how it works. It's not how it ever works. If you were a dork in high school, you're a dork in college, Mike. That's the rules. I didn't make them up. These are the rules I live by, okay?
You know what that sounder means?
You got tension?
That's... I do actually. I disagree with one thing you said, which is it's fine. If they do win this series now, if the Nets win this series, that must mean something's gone right and that Ben's it was right.
I'll take it. If we've totally
If they turn it
changed
around,
for, like,
yeah.
If it is new school, new me, then fine. Yeah, it's tautological. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, if that happens, if reality plays out in the way that they're down 2-0, I had picked the Nets in 6, which is quite silly now that I'm sitting here. But if they go if they win 4 straight, if they win 4 straight, I will feel good. Let me ask you this though. Okay, let's just be positive. Let's do a positive. Hey, this is our positive segment. I don't have a sounder for positivity, but positivity.
Usually positive things.
Police
Sirens. Yeah.
It's bad take by me. Yeah. If the Nets win Game 3, okay, and then Ben Simmons is returning, try to put yourself in that emotional place. Are you tricking yourself into believing maybe they can do it?
Sorry, I totally spaced out for the first half of that question. I don't know
because the police siren just made you went to a really dark place.
I think so.
Like looking around.
Sorry, that's on me. Yeah,
they win Game 3. The Nets win Game 3.
Yeah,
Ben Simmons returns for Game 4. What's your mentality? Because I think I'll be honest with myself, even though right now I'm very sad about this team. If they win Game 3 and Ben Simmons is returning, I'm like, hey, like what, they just have to win at home, and then it's a best of.
I'll say this: it'll depend how
we
win Game 3. If we from start to finish have start playing some beautiful basketball, and like we appear to be a completely reformed operation, sure, I'll buy in. But if it's just like we happen to win on the margins by doing the same exact thing that we've done, it's just like in this case, our buzzer beater goes in instead of theirs. Like, I'm not going to feel super good about that. I guess it has to be like in the details for me at this point.
I think this is a larger point. This Steve Nash experience has made me now finally truly sort of kill the idea of a former great player is a basketball genius, and thus, as a coach, they will be a genius coach probably on offense, right? Like, ultimately, the offense that the Nets run was better last year when Mike D'Antoni was an assistant coach, and is now not as good with Mike D'Antoni out of the system. The architects of the greatest offenses in NBA history typically don't come from great players.
I don't see why this
is
who
are now coaches.
It's really uncontroversial, and it's also uncontroversial, I think, in the like media sphere. I still see people like, and then not to say that I'm some kind of media guy, because surely I'm not, but like watching.
Now you're on the Athletic NBA show, so look at you.
And a subsidiary of the New York Times. But like you still hear guys like Shaq being like, well, if you didn't play, you can't be a communicator about basketball. And it's like, Shaq, you suck at talking about basketball. I hate to say it, but like you suck at talking about basketball. And I get that you probably know a whole lot more about playing it than me, but you're not as good as talking.
Fuck.
Yeah. Great. Good time to like.
Well, how good are you at talking? Jeez.
Yeah. Great time to hit a dead end there. But anyways, you get what I'm trying to say, right? Fuck Shaq. Sorry,
fuck that guy. Who's like one of the greatest players of all time.
We've been through an emotional roller coaster.
Brought me so much joy as a fan growing up.
Bear with me.
I like. So Jason Kidd has done a better job in Dallas, but he failed ultimately with the Nets, and he failed in Milwaukee. And, now he's doing better. Like, I think this notion. So I remember, like, Steve Nash coming in was there was mystery, but there's also excitement because of the way he played, because he was so smart as a player. He was next level thinker, that it was like, shit, maybe he'll bring that to this team. And I remember in that first training camp when we talked about this, Reggie Perry. Shout out, name dropper over here. Reggie Perry was extolling the virtues of Steve Nash's defensive schemes, that he had defensive schemes as no one has ever seen before. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is one of the greatest offensive point guards of all time. And he's like Bill Belichick of the NBA. And yet ultimately what we've gotten is like the substitute teacher, like a nice guy, again, who will roll out the TV. We're not getting, master and commander. We're not getting Russell Crowe on the boat. Guiding us through the choppy waters. Dude, we're getting.
Was Reggie Perry just like the best like hype man of all time for himself. Like, he's just like a mess. He's like Grima Wormtongue, just pulling all the strings of the
nice.
media just to like make this insane crescendo of Reggie Perry media coverage, and then just like when he actually saw him play basketball, like what was
Remember
everyone
how
talking
hyped we were about Reggie Perry?
Sorry, what was everyone talking about with this guy?
Yeah.
Just meanwhile, it's just Reggie Perry going behind it. It's like, Steve Nash is brilliant. I'm brilliant.
So yeah, it's they're down 2-0. The series is over. But it's hard to. I mean, I don't know. Let's end the pod almost here. Let me ask you one final question. Right?
Yeah.
Is the series over, or is it? Hey, if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving get their shit together, if they both play well together, Bruce Brown is playing well, and there's Drummond isn't. Nick Claxton. Oh my God, we didn't even talk about the Nick Claxton free throw.
Whatever.
I was DMing Mina Kimes that I feel bad for her because she's such a Claxton stan. But that is next level embarrassment.
Everyone likes that a DM like, hey, I feel bad for you. Cool, thanks.
Yeah. I do like that. That's
do you?
I
oh
like,
my gosh.
I like being feeling sympathy. It's the what's the
Oh yeah, there's a whole
mental disorder where you want to poison your kids.
Munchausen's.
Munchausen
by proxy.
Yeah.
That's what you have.
So I have that for basketball.
Cool.
No. I have. I'm trying to think of like a Munchausen basketball player. Anyways. So, what's your prediction?
Yeah. Again, I'll just go back to the unless the problem is just a continuation of the last couple of months of basketball going into the season, which at no point did the optics feel good. At just a huge macro base level.
Very few times. There's like the Miami Heat game.
There was a couple of games,
moments.
and this has been true of us through the whole season, and it's just always looked somehow wrong despite, mostly good results. And it's just been it's a perfect linear progression right into the playoffs, and it's a bad situation for us. And so I'm trying to be optimistic. I'll say it. I think it's completely plausible that we win these next two games, but unless something changes fundamentally with what's going on, and there's not a ton
Ben Simmons,
which could be Ben Simmons, and I'm open to
dude.
this
He's
idea.
one of the most clutch players in the NBA,
and I'm open to this. I'm open to
historically a great playoff basketball player.
That he himself is reformed and then can reform the team. That's a lot of reformation, but here's my optimism. Then yes, that can happen. But if what I'm seeing continues, if that linear progression just keeps on keeping on. I am the faith that we're discussing about being lost. It could be well and good lost, Mike, and it's almost time to tee up that Coach K season. We're ready to go, buddy.
Woo, baby! Yeah. I'm ready for him to try to tell people to slap the floor. And anyway, so I will say this again. I know this is hot takey, and this is like trying to get out ahead of the headlines. And I apologize. The Coach K thing was that too, but. If the Nets lose in 5 in this series, there's going to be a fall guy, and it's going to be Steve Nash because Kyrie and KD ain't going anywhere. Sean Marks has Joe Tsai's ear on that level. Now, Sean Marks hired Steve Nash partly because of his relationship with Kevin Durant, but yeah, pressure will be on Sean Marks. They're not going to fire Sean Marks. They're going to fire Steve Nash, and then it becomes who do you get next? And we'll do that 1,000 times over. I'm just saying this series could still be competitive, and they could lose in 6 or 7, and then we feel a little bit better. But right now, on 420 after game 2,
we're high. We're too high for this right now, Mike. We are.
Yeah, dude. I was doing gravity bongs. I was
we're crazy. We're crazy right now. What did we just talk about? This is nuts. Anyways, Mike, let's get out of here.
Hey, check us out on Twitter at BKGlaze, Netsdaily.com. 5 stars, Apple Podcasts. It never hurts. It always feels good.
Right. A little review,
what's one of the great things? We have a lot of comments, and I appreciate each and every one of them. I put them on a scroll, and they're my Torah.
Love that.
Happy Passover. I think
is
it's
that it?
Passover.
Let's get out of here.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Bye now. Bye.